In the northern land of ancient Israel, surrounded by rolling green hills and warm winds from the Sea of Galilee, life moved slowly. Fishermen rose before dawn, merchants opened their shops along dusty roads, and families prayed for peace in a world ruled by Roman power. Yet beneath the surface of this everyday routine, something extraordinary was stirring. Change was coming. A new story was about to unfold, one that would reshape history forever. Near the quiet village of Bethsaida lived two brothers, Simon Peter and Andrew. They were fishermen, like their father before them. Their hands were rough from rope and salt, their backs strong from years of labour beneath sun and moon. Peter, the elder brother, was bold, outspoken, and quick to react. Andrew, quieter and thoughtful, listened more than he spoke. The two balanced each other like the steady sides of a boat carrying them through life. For years, they rose while the stars still glimmered over the sea, rowing into the deep waters where fish gathered. But this night had been difficult. Cast after cast, hour after hour, the nets returned empty. Their arms were tired, their faces weary. As the first colours of morning spread across the sky, Peter sighed heavily. "We have nothing," he muttered, "not even enough to sell." Andrew tried to encourage him, but even he felt the sting of disappointment. They guided their small boat back to shore, where other fishermen were already mending their nets. It was a peaceful morning, birds calling overhead, the water shimmering with soft light. But tension lingered among the men. For fishermen, an empty night meant an uncertain day. As they washed their nets, a sound broke through the gentle rhythm of the waves. A voice. A strong yet peaceful voice that carried across the shore. A crowd was gathering around a man who stood confidently near the water's edge. Some whispered his name with curiosity. Others watched in silence. Peter glanced over. "It's that teacher from Nazareth," he said. Andrew's eyes brightened. "Jesus, I've heard of him." The brothers paused their work, listening as the teacher spoke. His words seemed simple, yet they cut deeply, stirring thoughts and longings the people had never dared to express. His teachings were not like those of the scribes. He spoke with authority, yet with compassion, with power, yet with gentleness. More people gathered. The crowd grew so large that some were pressing dangerously close to the water. Then Jesus turned and walked straight toward Peter's boat. Peter blinked, unsure whether to step back or stand firm. Jesus stepped into the boat as naturally as someone stepping into a friend's home. He looked at Peter and said, with calm confidence, "Push out a little from the shore." Peter hesitated. He was tired, hungry, and frustrated. But something in Jesus' eyes, something steady and searching, softened him. Without another word, he climbed into the boat and pushed off. From the bow of the boat, Jesus taught the crowd. His voice was steady, rising and falling with the rhythm of the waves. He spoke of the kingdom of heaven, of forgiveness, of hope, of a God who saw not only the actions of people, but the condition of their hearts. Every word felt like water to a thirsty land. Andrew listened with awe. Peter tried to appear indifferent, but even he found his heart stirred. When Jesus finished speaking, the people slowly drifted back to their daily tasks. The shoreline grew quiet once more. Then Jesus turned to Peter. "Go out into the deep water," he said. "Cast your nets again." Peter's jaw tightened. "Master, we worked all night," he said, trying not to sound irritated. "We caught nothing." He paused. "But because you say so, I will." He cast the nets. Time seemed to hold its breath. Then, a sudden pull, a violent tug. The rope tightened around his hands. Peter gasped as the boat lurched to one side. Andrew hurried to help him, eyes wide. The nets were swelling, bubbling, overflowing. Fish thrashed wildly inside, far more than the brothers had ever caught in a single cast. The weight of the catch dragged the boat dangerously low. "James! John!" Peter shouted toward their partners on shore. "Come quickly!" They rowed hard, leaping into action. Soon both boats were packed to the edge, barely floating under the immense load. Peter stared at the catch, then at Jesus, then back at the miracle glistening in the morning light. Fear, awe, amazement, and unworthiness collided inside him. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. "Lord, depart from me," he whispered, voice shaking. "I am a sinful man." Jesus stepped closer. His tone softened, warm like the morning sun. "Do not be afraid, Simon. From now on, you will fish for people." Andrew felt the words sink into his soul. James and John exchanged glances. Something powerful was happening. Something divine. As soon as the boats reached shore, the four men stood silently, staring at their nets, their boats, and their unexpected miracle. They had just received the greatest catch of their lives, yet somehow it no longer mattered. Their hearts were being called elsewhere. Without hesitation, Peter dropped his net. Andrew followed. James and John left their father's boat behind. 4 fishermen, ordinary men, walked away from everything they had ever known to follow the man who saw them as more than fishermen. He saw them as leaders, disciples, messengers, builders of a kingdom that would transform the world. For days they followed Jesus from village to village. They watched him heal the sick, comfort the broken, and teach with an authority no ordinary man possessed. They listened to parables that revealed hidden truths. They saw crowds gather wherever he went. But following Jesus was not easy. Some days were filled with wonder. Others were filled with confusion. They often struggled to understand his teachings. They worried about where they would sleep or what they would eat. They feared the criticism of religious leaders. They wondered what their families thought of their sudden decision to leave home. Yet Jesus reassured them. "Come to me," he said. "I will make you fishers of men." One evening, as they rested near the sea, Peter asked him quietly, "Why us? Why choose fishermen?" Jesus smiled. "Because a fisherman knows patience, endurance, strength. He knows how to wait for the right moment and how to seize it, and the world will need men with those skills." The disciples exchanged humble glances. They were ordinary, imperfect, flawed, but Jesus had chosen them, and that alone gave them courage. As days turned into weeks, they witnessed more miracles. A man with leprosy healed with a touch. A paralyzed man walking home with his mat under his arm. Crowds gathering by the thousands, pressing in for just a word or a blessing. And through it all, Peter, Andrew, James, and John stood by his side, learning, growing, discovering purpose they never dreamed possible. Yet not everyone welcomed Jesus. Religious leaders whispered. Roman authorities watched with suspicion. There were murmurs, debates, accusations. The disciples began to realize that following Jesus would not only bring hope, but conflict. Still, they pressed forward, for they had seen the impossible. They had heard truth spoken like never before. They had felt the presence of God standing among them. Their old lives as fishermen were gone. Their destiny as disciples had begun. And so the New Testament unfolded, not with kings or warriors, but with ordinary men who dared to follow an extraordinary Saviour.